Folks, you're listening to WKRK 1320 AM, 105.5 FM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide at country.am. Of course, I'm here with Sheriff Derek Palmer. And, of course, the illustrious Tim Bradford. As for everybody watching the video stream, I'm getting them up for you now, and they should be on in just a second, and they should be on now. Can I be any more of an awkward DJ today, Tim?
No.
It's okay. I woke up super early, so I have an excuse. What do we got to talk about today,
Could
Sheriff?
I be even more illustrious than normal?
You're welcome to leave if you don't want to be illustrious.
I'm even more illustrious. I think so. Yeah, right.
After being gone this morning, yeah.
Yes, I laid out this morning.
So I've been seeing that you've been losing some weight.
And you have too.
Yeah, you have been, you and the two mayors have been competing for some weight loss. And
We have. I'm on day 14
Well, I keep
now.
seeing yours, but I don't see anything from the mayors. Where are they at?
They're hiding.
Are they hiding?
Except they're doing better than he is.
I think they are, actually.
Is that what?
I'm on day 14, and today is 14 pounds gone.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
so
great.
about a pound a day, so slow but steady.
Yeah. A pound a day is good.
So I'm excited about that. So we'll keep on pushing it, and until even at day 30, hopefully it'll be 30 pounds gone by then.
I tell you what, I have been, like I say, we've talked about it the last few times I've been on there. I've been exercising and losing weight and all that good stuff. And I think I'm going to have to go back to the doctor and start getting some of my medicines cut because I think I'm taking too much medicine now. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that I usually do in morning and evening.
Right.
And when I don't take my evening, I feel a lot better. If I take both of them, I don't feel too well. So I think I'm getting too much medicine now since I've lost some weight and eating healthy and those kind of things.
It's true. Since I started eating properly and losing some weight, I don't need my sleep. What's that called? I stopped taking my sleeping medication. I sleep just fine now. And I stopped taking my acid reflux medicine. I haven't taken that in about 3 weeks now.
Right.
And I don't need it. I don't wake up gagging on the acid anymore.
Right.
So eating right is
amazing what exercise and eating right will do.
I know, right?
Who knew?
Really?
Who knew?
We do have comments, Tim, by the way, that you're looking thinner. So
well, thank you. I appreciate
really
that.
Killing it.
And my blood pressure, it was before. I know the bottom number was like 110, and I measured it last night. It was like 86.
Oh, good.
So my blood
Very
pressure's
well.
going down significantly in just 2 weeks. So it's making a difference.
Look at this healthy old man.
Well,
I
I
know,
wasn't
right?
here last week. Something happened. I couldn't make it for last week's show. But one of the things I do want to say that I was going to mention last week that I want to mention this week is, you know how Cherokee County is. Rumor mills fly everywhere, and people, they don't know the truth. They make up things.
No.
And put it out
There's
there.
no gossip out there,
No,
Sheriff.
none. Not on
What are you
social media or
talking about?
anything, right? So I do want to let people know that I have no plans to retire anytime soon. I have no plans to resign. I have no plans for anything like that. So I keep getting bombarded by phone calls, and every time I run to the store, go to Walmart, people say, "Are you leaving us? Please don't leave. Run again." Those kind of things, and I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm not going anywhere." And so they start sharing all these reasons, and I've heard everything from I'm being arrested to I'm being fired to I'm quitting to I'm resigning to I'm retiring. I heard I had cancer. One person told me I had cancer, and I
had heard that you lost too much hair.
too bad, yeah. But there was one in particular that hurt. Right, of all these rumors that's flying, there's one in particular that hurt. I talked to a lady yesterday, and she asked me, she said, "Can I ask you a personal question?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Are you leaving us?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I have no plans of doing that." And she said, "Well, I heard a rumor that you are resigning at the end of the month because the job is just too much and you've put on too much weight." And I thought, so you're telling me I'm too fat to be sheriff?
Oh, man. By the way, folks, it is Sheriff Derek Palmer's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, it
so
is.
go ahead and wish him an early birthday. He's
Yeah.
turning 60.
By the way, I started that one.
You did start that.
I'm kidding. I did not.
For those that's
I wish I
wondering-
had, though.
For those that's wondering, I'm 47
He's not
tomorrow.
actually 60.
40.
Yeah,
Me being a
47.
bully.
47.
Yeah, but it is my birthday tomorrow.
Happy birthday,
Well, thank you.
Derek
Thank you
Palmer.
very much. I appreciate that.
So that officially puts you a year older than me.
Happy birthday.
Officially, right?
That's right. Officially.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought you were 25, Tim.
I mean, officially, way older than me, Derek.
Yeah.
So
Just passed you up, right?
just passed me up.
Yeah.
All right. So you're not retiring. You're not leaving.
right. Yeah. None of those other bad things people
all
are
those-
reporting are happening.
So folks in the rumor mill.
I heard everything from I was getting fired. There's no one can fire me. I have no employer or boss other than the people. The only way I can get fired is to vote for somebody else in 4 years. So there's None of that's happening. So whatever you hear out there, just know you're stuck with me till at least December 1st of 2022. So.
All right, we're stuck with you.
I don't think you're as hated as you think you are, Derek.
No, I
don't
don't
give
think
yourself
so.
a hard time.
Well, I tell you what, I have been bombarded by people, honestly, that's calling and saying that are truly upset because they thought I was retiring or that I was leaving or whatever. So that's the reason I'm mentioning all this. That's the reason I'm saying there is a lot of people out there that do support the sheriff's office, that supports me personally, and I do appreciate people for that and appreciate the calls and your concerns, but just rest easy.
Well, the issue is it's stuff like this confirmation bias. You know, you can get 10 compliments and then there's one person that's negative, and you're always going to remember the negative.
You always
person
remember the negative,
every
yeah.
time. So you're going to have to just acknowledge that
Right.
sometimes your mind gets to you, because I've had to do that too.
Right. Yeah.
All right. There's one thing that has passed with the county commissioners this time. It was a 3-2 vote
Right.
about Cherokee County becoming a gun sanctuary county.
Right.
I know that's a little controversial.
It
so
is a little
let's kind of delve into it. And a lot of the language that was mentioned that was a little confusing.
Yeah.
A lot. I know Dr. Eigenbaum read through that, and it was a little hard to follow.
It's a little lengthy.
It was a little lengthy.
It was a little
3
lengthy.
pages worth, I
Yeah.
believe, and.
Yeah.
So maybe to the average citizen
Well,
may not have been able to
yeah.
translate that language.
I'll address it to the best I can.
All right, so-
First of all, this was an action created by the commission board. It really didn't have anything to do with the sheriff's office, but it was asked my opinion about it, and asked me to speak as to my opinion about the resolution, and I'll talk about it in just a second. But it is what it is. It's a resolution. There is nothing enacted as far as law changes or ordinances or anything like that. It's basically just a statement. It's a statement of the opinion of the county on where it stands on gun issues and gun control, and it's a statement of what the belief of the commission board is.
So that's all a resolution is.
That's
It's like-
really all a resolution is. It has no power. It has no teeth. It has not anything with it. So nothing has changed.
Okay.
Right. It's just a statement of what, kind of like a doctrinal belief of a church, right? A church says this is what we believe in. This is our statement of faith. This is these kind of things. For a resolution, for county commissioners to pass a resolution, that's basically what that is. And there's a little bit more legality to it, of course, that I'm not an attorney. I can't explain all that to you. So you can contact the commissioners yourself or the county manager or Darrell Brown, the county attorney, and they can explain it more to you. But from my understanding, that's what I understand that it is, just basically a statement. I was asked by Commissioner Eichenbaum if I would review the resolution and give my opinion as to the sheriff of the county, as to whether I agreed with the resolution, didn't agree, whether as a sheriff that I supported it or didn't support it, kind of thing. So my statement that I made and what I had to say about the resolution did not fall on the shoulders where the commissioner should or should not do it. My statement was based on law enforcement and on the sheriff's opinion as being the sheriff of the county, as to where I stood on basically on gun control and where I stood on the gun resolution and whether we should be a sanctuary county or those type of things. And kind of some things I addressed in the statement that I made was the fact of that as sheriff, and let me address this right now. We talked about I couldn't get fired, right? So one of the things about sheriff is the sheriff is the only law enforcement position anywhere, state, local, or federal, that is a constitutional position.
Okay.
Right. Every other law enforcement officer, whether you're a city police officer, highway patrols, state SBI, federal FBI, DEA, whoever, if you're a law enforcement agency, anything other than the sheriff's office, you work for somebody. You either work for the governor, you work for the mayor, you work for the president, you have an employer. For the office of sheriff is the only constitutional law enforcement position where you have no one that you answer to other than directly to the people.
Okay.
And so that's why there's no entity or no person out there that can just arbitrarily fire the sheriff. It takes an election, it takes people voting the sheriff out of office, those type of things for that to be accomplished. So with that being said, and understanding that the office of sheriff is a constitutional position, there in my oath of office that I took as sheriff, when I laid my hand on the Bible in December 2014, then again in 2018, last year, when I laid my hand on the Bible and swore to my oath of office, I swore to the fact of that I would be loyal and uphold and support the Constitution of the United States. That's what I swear to. They also, in addition to that, I swear to upholding the laws of North Carolina as long as it doesn't contradict the Constitution of the United States. So ultimately, at the end of the day, as the sheriff's office, as the sheriff himself, my oath of office is to protect the Constitution, the United States Constitution. And you can read through all the legal jargon, but that's basically what it boils down to at the end. So looking over gun issues, gun control, the being a gun sanctuary county, those type of things, looking at what was said in there, basically what the resolution said, and I'm paraphrasing, of course. Anybody can get a copy of it and read it yourself.
Yes, let's please paraphrase.
Let's not read 3 pages of it.
Yes,
right?
let's please not.
So basically, what the resolution stated from the commissioners was the fact of that they agreed with that assumption that the Constitution of the United States was the ultimate law, and that if any laws were introduced or passed that was in contradiction to the laws of the United States Constitution, that they would uphold the Constitution versus the state laws. And if our federal government passed laws that were contrary to the Constitution of the United States, such as gun confiscation, such as registration of weapons, those type of things, that they as a commission board would not support that. I have to agree with that. As sheriff, I agree with that statement. That I think as sheriff being sworn in to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and that being the supreme law of the land, that if any laws are passed that are contradictory to what the Constitution says, my job as sheriff is to support the laws of the Constitution as being the supreme law. And so what I had to say for that was the reason that I did support the resolution and the reason that I did support what the commissioners were trying to pass was the fact of that I believe that as sheriff, I have an inherent responsibility and inherent duty to where if the federal government did pass, say, things like gun confiscation, to where registrations and those type of things that was contradictory to the Constitution, what I swore to and my job as sheriff is not to enforce those laws that are unconstitutional, but only support the Constitution of the United States. And so that's why I kind of lean toward that side of saying, as sheriff, I do support it. And as sheriff, I do support the statement that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and that if any unconstitutional laws were passed, that as sheriff, I wouldn't take part in enforcing unconstitutional laws. Is basically what all that boiled down to at the end of the night. And I hope that kind of made it as clear as mud for a lot of people.
That is. All right, so my next question is, what all is happening that actually put the trigger? I know there's a lot of things going on in our county, so why was so much time put into constructing this document when...
Well, what's happening is all across the United States, we are seeing states, not necessarily North Carolina, but we're seeing other states trying to enact local gun confiscations or gun bans, for example. You see things like in Illinois and Chicago where they have a full-out ban on weapons, period. Where if you live in the city of Chicago, you're not allowed to have any kind of weapons whatsoever. And just because of the icing on it, or a side note there, they have more murders there than they do anywhere else in the United States where the gun laws are the strictest. But that's a side point. They have about 40 murders every weekend. but they don't work, but that's a whole nother conversation. But what Cherokee County was looking at, I think, from the commission board, and again, I'm speaking on the behalf of a commissioner and a commission board, which I'm only speaking to what I understand it as. If they wanted to give a full detail, you'd probably need Commissioner Eichenbaum to come in here and let you know why he wrote it and why he did what he did. But from my understanding is these things that's happening across the United States, and the declaration of certain people within our federal government from a liberal agenda of wanting full-on gun confiscation and gun bans, is there is a concern there that this is what's coming down the pike. This is what's coming in future days.
So,
and counties all across the United States are passing similar resolutions to this. It's stating we want our voice made known and our voice heard, that we don't support this ideology or this agenda of gun confiscation and gun bans, and we feel like our citizens here in Cherokee County have the right to bear arms through the Constitution. Our citizens here in Cherokee County have a right to defend themselves, and our citizens here in Cherokee County have the right to own weapons as presented by the United States Constitution. And like I say, there's really no teeth with that resolution. It's just a declaration, basically, as to what that is. But it's a voice to let our federal government, and it's a voice to let those that's within power to understand our feelings as citizens about what we believe and what we don't believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Okay.
I think a lot of folks may not understand differences between resolutions and ordinances and all the things that get passed into law.
I know I certainly didn't.
I mean, honestly, I didn't either, to be honest.
Right.
I have to always look those up and to figure out how things are worded. So that's a huge paraphrase of a very lengthy document, and I have a copy of that, and I've read over it a couple of times, and still it's a little confusing, but it is legal jargon.
And I do want to say this. I do want to say that the commissioners that the two that didn't support the resolution, from my conversations with them, and again, I'm speaking on the behalf of someone else, but it was my understanding from those two that didn't support the resolution was not the fact that they were against guns, and they didn't believe that, and they didn't believe that people had the right to defend themselves. I think their concern was by doing a resolution as a commission board, they were afraid that it might entice people that don't live here, that might be gun fanatics, or might be someone who is unstable, or someone who is looking for a place to sovereign citizen type people who are looking for a place to be anti-government and to set up some type of militia kind of mentality. They were afraid that a resolution like that might entice someone to come to the area, and that may not be a law-abiding citizen that was here for the right reason.
Which we have heard of sanctuary cities as far as other type of things besides guns, and a lot of folks oppose those type of sanctuary cities too because of that very reason. Yeah. And I remember one of the commissioners saying that he was concerned that maybe a gun store owner might advertise on billboards, "Welcome here, this gun sanctuary city," and do just that, try to entice people that may have ill will at heart to locate here. And some other folks may be concerned about tourism, that it may affect tourism in our area with that just being on the record.
And like I say, the concept of supporting, not supporting, those type of things are much different from the position of sheriff than they are from the position of county commissioner, right? Because we're looking at it from two different mindsets. I'm looking at it from law enforcement and from my oath of office of swearing to the Constitution of the United States. They're looking at it from not just their oath of office, but also from a financial aspect, from of trying to do right by the citizens, of how they spend money and how it affects money in the county and taxes and revenue and those type of things. So we're looking at it from two different perspectives. So I just didn't want people to get the idea that the commissioners that didn't support it were against guns or anti-gun, because that's just simply not true. That's just not the fact.
And sometimes I think that's the problem in any kind of lawmaking situation. We see it all the time in our in Washington D.C. is that we see people that only come in with their own view of things, and they refuse to listen to the other side. And if we could all just get together and just listen to how other people perceive things, we could actually reach compromises and see things on both sides. But sometimes when we're trying to make a decision, we fail to see things other than the way we see things.
Right. Yeah.
So being able to hear both sides is very important, and hopefully all lawmakers out there listening or watching can maybe open their minds a little bit.
Well, I think we have become. It really doesn't matter what political spectrum you're on, whether you're on the liberal side or whether you're on the conservative side. We are getting farther and farther apart as far as polarizing ourselves, to digging our feet in and making stances and not listening to the other side and what the other side have to say and making those compromises. Now, I do feel like that, when you're on a position of gun control, you're on a position of other things that affects the Constitution, there are times that you need to dig your feet in, right, and stand for what you believe in. But there are also other times that I think that we need to open our ears a little bit and listen to what other people are saying, but be willing to make those compromises in that. As far as gun control itself, the one thing I think that people need to understand and realize is the fact of that the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, our right to bear arms, right to form militias, all those kind of things, is not our founding fathers didn't give us the right to bear arms so we could deer hunt or so that we could defend ourselves necessarily even in our own homes. That Second Amendment was primarily made for the fact of that we could defend ourselves against all enemies, whether foreign enemies like our founding fathers had to defend against the British that were coming, or whether it was domestic enemies, which could be our own government, right? And so a lot of the debates that happened over the years was with this Second Amendment is the fact of people inherently have the right to defend themselves against their own government if necessary. And if you look at the Constitution, what the Constitution has to say about that, it basically says that anybody that goes against the Constitution, that tries to unthwart the Constitution or do away with it, even if it's our own government, we have the right to revolt even against our own government. And the right to bear arms is to give us that ability to do that, to revolt against our own government.
I believe it was Thomas Jefferson who said it is your patriotic duty, actually.
Right.
You are supposed to.
Yeah, to go against your own government if necessary. And so one of the things that I think that we need to understand about their Second Amendment rights, is the fact of that even when you have these debates about automatic weapons, you have debates about how many rounds you can hold in your firearm and all those kind of things. It's not about whether you need 45 rounds in an AR-15 to deer hunt. That's not what the debate is about. The debate is about, do you have the right as a citizen to have 45 rounds in an AR-15 to defend yourself against an unconstitutional government that's trying to overthrow the Constitution?
Right.
That's what the debate is about. And so we get sidetracked on that a lot of times, and even through the media we get sidetracked on that as to this debate on how many rounds it takes or what type of weapons it takes to defend yourself in your home against a burglar, or how many rounds you need to go bird hunting, or how many rounds you need to go deer hunting. But that's not what the debate's about at all. The debate is about if our federal government issues military weapons to the military, that's automatic weapons that fires 30, 40 rounds, then as a citizen, I should have the right to have that same type of weapon to defend myself against my own government if necessary. And I think that people lose sight in that, and they lose sight in that whole discussion.
All right. What kind of feedback have you had as sheriff since this resolution has passed?
I've not really had any negative feedback. Everything that I've had is people that send things like, thank you for supporting the Constitution, thank you for standing up for gun rights, those kind of things. Those are the kind of feedback that I've actually gotten from people. Good. I think the area that we live in, we overwhelmingly have people who support gun rights and support the Constitution than we do people that's anti-gun or anti-Constitution. I think we overwhelmingly have more people that support it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
All right, and there's another topic we need to cover today, and I forgot what it was. What was the topic we needed to discuss today?
I don't know. I don't remember what it was.
Let's see. Our time is 11:32.
A car wreck.
I thought
this
that was
morning?
something you said. Yeah.
There was a fatality car wreck this morning. I know what one thing is too on that. We don't have all the details of that. I think Highway Patrol's still working that wreck. I don't know if family's been notified. So I don't want to speak too much to that, but it was an accident that happened down on Joe Brown Highway this morning. It was a fatality that they did find. But one thing I do want to say, one of the issues that's been up recently too is about unmarked vehicles.
Oh, yes.
Unmarked, and blue light bandits and those kind of things. So again, one of the issues that's happened was we've had three or four stories get combined into one story. Okay?
Right, that happens.
So last week, I started getting a lot of phone calls to the sheriff's office. The secretary started getting a lot of phone calls. Dispatch started getting a lot of phone calls about a white 2019 Ford Explorer with blue lights that was pulling people over, holding them at gunpoint, putting kids on the ground, holding them against their will, identifying themselves as a sheriff's office, and then leaving. What we realized is we don't have a vehicle that matches that description of the sheriff's office. We don't have a white 2019 unmarked Ford Explorer. So we immediately put out a something on our page. Just here's what it is. Be on the lookout for this vehicle. If you see it with anybody pulled over or anything going on that you feel uncomfortable, call 911, report it so you can verify whether it is an officer or not an officer. Okay. So after we put that out, we started continually getting a lot of phone calls about this unmarked vehicle. Well, what we found out in our research, when the lieutenant over investigation started researching it, we found out that we had three different stories that got combined. The first story was a story that did happen. It was a story where there was a white Jeep Cherokee that was traveling around one of our local roads, and some kids was walking on the side of the road, and over a PA system basically said, "I'm the police, get out of the road," and made the kids jump out of the road. The vehicle just kept on, didn't stop or anything like that. But they were upset as to the fact whether it was the police or not the police. And it sounds to me like it was probably some juveniles with the PA system in a vehicle. That did happen.
Okay.
The other thing that happened was, as that was being discussed on social media, there was another person that interjected into social media about how he just did not like the fact that law enforcement had unmarked vehicles, and that he didn't think it was right that law enforcement had the ability to have unmarked vehicles. And in that conversation, somebody else mentioned the fact of that they had just seen a 2019 white Ford Explorer with blue lights in it. Could this have been the vehicle that did that to the kids? Mm-hmm. All those stories started taking a life of its own, and got pushed to the fact of that here we have a 2019 putting people on the ground at gunpoint kind of thing. So in retrospect, looking at it, that 2019 vehicle putting kids on the ground never happened. That was just a story that was made up. That kind of like me retiring because I'm too fat, right? It was just a story that was made up, that was put out there, and so they kind of took a life of its own on that. But one of the things we have done as the sheriff's office, I talked to the investigative lieutenant this morning, was the fact of that I think that as law enforcement officers, even with our investigators, narcotics unit, those people who are out in unmarked vehicles that are stopping cars, we need to make sure that we are clearly identified as sheriff's office. Mm-hmm. And so we are looking at getting some attire, some shirts, some jackets, some different things, that if we have people in plain clothes and unmarked vehicles that are stopping cars, that when they get out of the vehicle, to make sure that they are clearly marked and clearly identified as a sheriff's office. But again, with all that, I do want to say that if you are being stopped by an unmarked vehicle and you have a question about whether it is law enforcement or not law enforcement, simply call 911, right? Okay. Call the 911 dispatch, let them know where you're being stopped, that an unmarked vehicle is pulling you over, and that dispatcher will be able to identify that person that's pulling you over to let you know whether it is indeed law enforcement or not. Okay, so that can clearly be rectified on that point. If you're in the outliers of the county and you're in a place where your cell service does not work, please try to stop in front of someone's residence or stop in a well-lit area if it's nighttime, those kind of things, to where identifications can be presented. And if you ask a law enforcement officer for identification, he should provide you identification, right? Whether it's a badge or whether it's we carry cards like this, for example, I don't know if you can see it, but it has her name and her picture and who we work for and those kind of things on it. So that officer should be able to show you something similar to that, and his badge as to who he works for and those kind of things, and tell you who he is and his name. If you have an officer that will not show you his identification or will not tell you his name, that is a clear indication you've got an issue, you've got a problem at that point. So again, there's nothing wrong with asking for identification, for calling 911, getting the dispatch to identify who that officer is, and they'll be able to tell you whether it is a legal stop.
And the officer should be happy to provide that for your safety.
Right.
I mean, they should respect that.
Yesterday, I was, and it wasn't a traffic stop, I was just talking to a person, and he didn't believe I was who I was, so I showed him my identification. He still didn't believe me. I actually took my driver's license out and said, here, this is who I am, right? And so sometimes you have to go above and beyond like that just to show your identification, as to who you are. So if an officer is legitimate, he shouldn't have an issue or a problem with showing you identification and who he is.
One other thing I wanted to address before the show ends, because I realized we're short on time. I sent you a text the other night, and there was this thing on social media. I don't know if it was true or not. There was a situation on one of the traffic weather pages locally about an active shooter.
Right.
I think that may have gotten blown out of proportion.
Again, that was one of the things. Social media is infamous for blowing things out of proportion.
So can we kind of clear that up right now?
Yeah, what the best we can tell, and we're still working on it. We've got 3 investigators today out interviewing people and talking to them about this situation that happened. But from the initial report we got, there was a lady who was outside her home. A 4-wheeler or buggy of some sort pulled up to her driveway. They had some type of conversation. He made some type of advance or comment toward the lady about how she looked or some kind of inappropriate comment. Mm-hmm. About that time, her husband came out of the house, asked him who he was and what he wanted, those kind of things. An altercation occurred between the husband and the man, and until it come to the point where the man on the 4-wheeler produced a weapon. The husband produced a weapon, and I think there was actually shots exchanged between the two of them.
Okay.
But the guy on the four-wheeler fled. No one knew who he was or could identify him. Law enforcement arrived on the scene down there. They saw the direction he went in, some field he went through, some tracks. So the sheriff's office started following the tracks and trying to identify where the four-wheeler went or who it was and those type of things. The story that got put on social media was that we were in a police chase with an active shooter and was having a shootout going down 294.
Yes, it
It's
was
about how social media goes,
Right.
isn't it?
It was a very dramatic,
Right.
and I was getting messages left and right.
Right.
So I finally was like, Derek, is this really
and,
true?
and again, when that was coming out on social media was that night, and this incident occurred like at 2:30 in the evening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it took a life of its own again, and again, you know, I hope I don't offend anybody out there, but it's just the way I feel about it. I'm just getting to the point where I greatly dislike social media. I just don't like it, because things like this do take a life of its own. It creates panic in the community. People post things they don't know what they're talking about. It causes people to get upset.
People
have
were really
problems,
panicking
you
that
know.
night.
And you know, when things like that are true, when they happen, we'll have things on our page. WKRK will have things out. We will have Nixle will be putting calls out, those type of things, you know. So if you're not getting any of that stuff, and you go to our page and there's nothing there, and you go to WKRK and there's nothing there, TV4 there's nothing there, and on these sites where we put those press releases and stuff out, you're not getting a call from Nixle, you're not getting a call from the county, none of this stuff is happening. Then you're to a place where you really don't need to be at a panic point at that
Right.
point.
Now,
Now,
that's what I told
you might have questions.
Yeah.
You might have questions as to what happened and want some things answered. But if none of that stuff is coming out through our legitimate sites, then there's not a place for panic.
And honestly, if I don't hear from you, I check the other media outlets too, just in case I didn't
Right.
get a notification or
Right.
something. If I didn't get a message from Nixle or a message from you, I'll check the other
Right.
media outlets too and see if they have anything,
Yeah.
in case they got something and I was out of cellular area or something.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, find a trusted media outlet or your page. And
Well, what I really don't like about social media, in addition to what I just stated, is the fact of that people can say and do pretty much anything on social media, and there's no ramifications or recourse for it.
Right. It can
You
get
know,
out of control. It
and
really
get-
can.
And one of the things, I'm on the legislative committee for the Sheriff's Association, and one of the things we have discussed, and we're going down for a meeting next week to have a meeting, and this is going to be one of the topics, is that I think that we need to introduce legislation and enact laws that people who put things on social media that incites riots, that incites panic, needs to have ramification for it. They need to have some type of accountability
Yeah.
for things they say and put on social media.
I mean, it's kind of like I grew up with my whole lesson as a kid. You know, you're responsible for your own actions,
Right.
And that should extend to social media.
Yeah. And like I say, there's nothing wrong with asking the question on social media, hey, what's going on 294? Has anybody heard of anything happening? But people who flat put on there, we have an active shooter. There is a chase going on with shots being fired between law enforcement and a suspect. You know, people who put those things on there as fact needs to have some kind of ramifications for things they put on there that's not true. So that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing in our legislative meeting this next upcoming week, actually in Raleigh. So hopefully we'll get something done with that.
Well, Derek, thank you so much for your
No
time
problem.
today, and we'll do it again next. Well, actually, I'm going to be going next Friday, but I guess you and Tyler can sit here and have
Stuck
a good
with me.
You're stuck with Tyler next week.
I think we can handle it, can't we, Tyler?
I think so. I like to think so.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Well, folks, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us,
you.
and thank you, Sheriff, and we'll just call it a wrap.
And don't touch that dial, folks. We have Pastor Odd Brown coming up with God's Word for today's world, so stay tuned here on WKRK, 1320 AM, 105.5 FM, cable TV channel 25, and worldwide at country.am.
If you're building a new home or replacing your present floors, check with Carpet Mart and Really Cheap Floors of Murphy for your flooring needs. Hardwood is the top choice of flooring for today's lifestyle, and Carpet Mart and Really Cheap Floors have a good selection of solid and engineered hardwood flooring. Also luxurious vinyl, plank, carpet, and tile. Open Monday through Saturday. For all your flooring needs, visit